Good evening. Welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Today we're on Eddie Spaghetti. How are you, man?
Good. How are you, Sean?
I'm doing good. Eddie does a lot of solo stuff, but he's also a super sucker.
I am.
And you are. Would you say I wouldn't even know how to categorize your music? I mean, it's like rock and it's country, but then it's punky. It's like you
Yeah,
know,
I don't know what to. I just call it rock and roll, but it is all kind of all over the map in that regard. I mean, uh, I like our countryside. I always thought that we would be like a band like Motorhead or the Ramones or AC/DC that puts out the same kind of record over and over again, and we basically do that. Except for we also have this countryside of what we do, so it adds a layer to the onion.
so
Yeah,
what's crazy. So it's not glamorous country. It's not like the shiny jeans and the bedazzled country. One of the coolest videos out there, and it's an older one, is you and Willie Nelson. Is you just as like outlaw country. You're more like the dirty country,
yeah, exactly.
which
Yeah,
is fun.
we don't like it too shiny in anything we do. Everything we do has a lot of grit on it. So, that's kind of what appealed to me about country music uh, when I was young was that it can be so honest and so raw,
Hmm.
and it's a lyric driven art form because the music's it's three chords basically. You're trotting the same ground musically, but it's where the lyrics they have a chance to really kind of tell a story in a country song.
And that's more the type of music, the older country that I enjoy growing up to. Like now, country to me is just something different. It's like pop music. It's changed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
popular country music now, it's like heavy metal was in the 80s.
yeah.
It's just gotten all out of hand and blown out of proportion. It's a shadow of what it ought to be, in my opinion.
I think the gateway from that is when you had the same production of Def Leppard and then Shania Twain. It felt like they did the same production that they did with Def Leppard. We obviously married to him, but I'm saying all of a sudden you're like,
Right.
oh, the floodgates are open now. you know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I feel like it's really gone that way. I don't listen to much popular music at all, so I'm pretty out of the loop. But when I hear something on TV or whatever, and
Mhm.
this is popular country music, I'm like, what is that crap?
Yeah, it's pretty hard. So you were actually the first thing we're talking about is your photo series of dirty bathrooms. What is up with that? If people don't know, on Eddie's Instagram, or actually I don't know if it's on your Facebook too. You take a every place you play, it feels like you've taken pictures of nasty bathrooms at rock clubs.
Yeah. The nastier, the more likely they are to make my feed. It's just something I started doing that, after a while of traveling and having this Instagram thing, and I want to show people really where I'm at.
Yeah.
This is where I have to go to the bathroom.
As I look at them, the first time I was like, "Oh, gross!" And then, like next thing you know, I'm like 10 minutes going through. I'm like, "Why am I keep looking at it?" It's like, it's it's
Yeah,
like junk food. I can't stop.
there's something sort of fascinating about it.
Well, it's because some of like the rock club bathroom because there's like writing and there's like graffiti or like you have just like a mirror that has like look like prison bars over it. You're like, where is that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some weird stuff in the bathrooms too. If you like look around in those bathrooms.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
you just got back from a tour, right, over
Yep.
Europe. Was that you? Who was that you or you in the band? I know you kind of do a lot of everything.
It was the band. We were in Europe for a long time, for almost 3 months, which was too long, but
Wow.
it was a fun tour. And then we just finished a month in the States, which was fraught with mechanical difficulties regarding our van.
What's up with that
So
now? I read about that. Is
it's
it?
it's it's better now. I mean, I guess it's fixed, but it just took a lot longer than we thought it would. It was just a colossal headache to have to manage. But once again, the shows were good, so that that's kind of the saving grace of the whole tour was that the shows were good.
Well, you're very much working musician, I think, and I think one of the funny parts with you showing the bathrooms, and one thing they talk about in the show is it's not glamorous. It's in the van, it's daily chores, it's sleeping crappy, but then put on a great show for somebody. You know, hassling with clubs and promoters, and clubs taking 10-20% of your merch, or it's a whole, like, it's like you're battling with everything else just to do that music the whole way through.
Right.
So I mean, I do props to you, and I tell the fans, go to the websites, get the merch, buy the tickets, support the bands, because it's a lot nowadays for bands to do it.
It is, and if it wasn't fun, certainly wouldn't still do it. We this band that I have now is, that everybody gets along really well. We all enjoy each other's company still, and there's really no internal friction
Hmm.
within the band, which is really kind of the worst thing about having a working in a group of people is the tension and the shitty attitudes and somebody thinking they're owed something. Just
Yeah,
the stress of having any sort of relationship.
make
And
take
this
the
one has been
van the
really great.
Thunderdome.
Right, exactly. And something like that, having the band breakdown on us could unravel, a band that's not getting along, or
Right.
can expose all the the wires that shouldn't be shown, and all that sort of stuff. But for us, we're really fortunate that we enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy the music that we make, and we still feel like we have more music to in us.
And I love the music, and obviously when we talking, I was a big fan. So I mean, to people that aren't aware of you, you got a lot of albums out. You even have some solo stuff. You actually just did a released a cover too, not that long ago. Um,
Uh, yeah, we
what
did
was
an
that about? Yeah,
AC/DC cover.
yeah, that's pretty awesome.
It was for this record label. I think they're called Magnetic Eye, and they did like a anniversary of Back in Black sort of a thing where they had all these bands do shitty covers
Yeah.
of AC/DC songs, and ours wasn't shitty.
No, it wasn't. But you also did you buy Sharona too, right? You also did a cover separately,
Oh, right, of My Sharona.
which was pretty fun. That popped up in
Yeah,
my
that was
feed,
real good.
not looking for your music at the time too. Just popped up. I was like, oh wow, that was pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
that came out really, really well. I was really happy with the way that came out. That song is such a big deal for me as a kid. That was the song that made me want to do this. I heard that song in, I don't know, 1978, I guess it was, and
Yeah.
my life was changed. And so I've always kind of held that, like, I've always like held My Sharona as like the high watermark of all rock songs, and to cover it was, took a lot of balls because it needed to be really good, and it was.
It was very good. And I assume it was well received too by the fans. I mean,
Yeah,
how are you doing like your set list now? I mean, because you guys have a lot of albums out, plus you've done some solo stuff. And you get the covers. I mean, your fans listen to everything. How are you at this point even figuring out set lists?
it's hard. There's so many songs, and you can never play everybody's favorite. Every night there's a guy there or a girl there saying, "Oh, you guys are so good, but you didn't play my favorite song." You try. I just try to, COVID was kind of helpful for me to make sense of our catalog a little bit, just to get the sense. I started writing lyrics for people. Like, I would write down songs that I've already written, just to
Yep.
have them give them some handwritten lyrics to have, and seeing the request for those songs and seeing which songs really resonate with people
Hmm.
was kind of eye opening, and enabled me to make a more concise anthological. I don't know what the word there
Yes.
is.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Set list of our catalog and our career, and try to do all the try to touch on a little something from every record, and that's getting harder and harder because
Yeah.
you
You
can
got a
only
lot of
play for like
records.
an hour and a half, and there's like I don't know how many records we have, but there's a lot. So
You have to
the
be
longer
in
you
it,
go,
right? I'll
the
give this.
harder these
So,
things are.
right, it'd be like when the Metallica did the anniversary, like at what I mean, like 5 nights, all the different albums, all the band members,
Right,
just for you to get through the catalog for people, for everybody to hear something that they wanted, because it's so
right.
vast.
Yeah, we've done that where we've toured, played a whole record in its entirety, and that's fun to do, just to revisit that time period and relearn those songs. And you don't play every song from every record live, and some songs you only record and never play them live. So it was fun to kind of go back and learn some of those songs again.
Yeah, that's interesting when a band does that. That like they'll do some songs and they're like, yeah, that's never gonna be live because how we did it in the studio. It's a cool song, but we can't do it justice, or they just don't. I don't know why. It's just fun. They're like, yeah, we've got to learn this song now before we go out. We cut it up. We pieced
Yeah,
it together in Pro Tools. I don't even know. I've never played the whole song. Like, really?
yeah, that doesn't happen to us so much. We're pretty live act, but There is one record I don't think we could ever do every song on it, the Sacrilegious Sounds record, because of Rick Sims' input on there. I just
Yeah.
I don't remember how to play those songs at all. they were they were really hard to play at the time, much less relearning them.
Well, and the thing is, like, you've been going for like what's it? You guys are like is it late '88, right? You guys got your first '89, is it? I'm thinking 88,
Yeah,
'89,
we
right?
started in '88. Yeah,
And you've gone through a few changes in the band. I think the last change was 209, right? That was the last, probably your last edition. You've been
yeah,
pretty solid since then. And unfortunately,
yeah.
a past member had passed away in the past year. Um,
Right.
and then you had your own struggles many years back, battling with cancer. And
Yep.
how are you? Since that happened, though, how are you handling like life on the road? I mean, is it just a life changer? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I made some changes to my life, since having cancer. I quit drinking, and that makes it just makes it a little more tedious to be on the road, without having the escape of booze. But you find ways to enjoy it still, and it's just yeah. I think the cancer was really it actually was. I look at it now as a positive thing. It got me kind of recalibrated my life a little bit and got me focused in on the things that are important. And it was just I took it as as a good thing. It woke me up to a lot of things that I
Right.
was
Well,
doing that
that's what it feels like it
weren't
would
so
be
healthy.
like once you got past it. But like in the moment, like I said, I would have been like you. I would have been a mess, and not so much for me. I would have been like, I've got a wife, I've got kids. I can't, what I mean, you have
Right.
like you have emotional responsibility. It's not like it's a responsibility like a job, but it's an emotional thing. You want to make sure everything goes through fine. You know,
Exactly.
besides worrying about yourself and your career and everything else. Um, but now you've gotten past all that, and you guys are doing albums and touring and this and that. What is the breakdown? You guys are you at a point now because you have a core audience wherever you go. Like you have an idea of what you're going to do when you go out and play. I mean, I think you probably
Yeah.
at that point with your band. It just lengthened your career.
Yeah.
Are you writing albums and playing like at this point when you want to, when you feel like every year you kind of on a schedule. You just have so many songs pouring out of you. You have to because you just gotta get the songs out of you.
Yeah, it's more like that. I just kind of wait for the process to naturally occur. For me, it usually, I'll have new songs, we'll record them, we'll release them, we'll go out and play them to death. I'll get tired of them, and that inspires me to write more. So that process kind of got interrupted in COVID. Like I've got nothing new for the Super Suckers just yet. I just in the last few months started feeling
Really?
the pricks of creativity come back in that regard.
Wow,
But
you're
it's
like the
not like
first
it's not like
person that's been like that from COVID that didn't have a new album writing.
right. Well, I did. It's not like I wasn't doing stuff. I produced a record for this punk rock band called the Riverside Odds, and I did that record with Frank Meyer, the motherfucking rock and roll record that has the My Sharona cover on it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's not like I wasn't busy, and I was writing, but I just didn't do anything for the Super Suckers. And then I was working on a lot of songs for our guitar player Marty. We made a solo record for him, which it's basically a Super Suckers record, just with Marty singing the
I
songs.
was gonna say it doesn't really feel like
So
it's a soul record if everybody's in it again.
right,
Like the
it's a
Kiss solo albums, right? All pledges
exactly
albums, but I put our face on it.
right. It's like that kind of, but I just feel like he's such a thing. The world needs to know about him. So I followed him around for a couple of weeks and just wrote down all the stupid things that he says and does and made up songs about it. So that's where my create now it's time to get on to I'm feeling the pressure of Super Suckers action now.
Really. So what is the process? Like you come in with all the songs, and the rest of the band kind of you guys sort them out together.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about the connection? So the Frank Myers connection there. Where did this come from? Because that's another powerful musical collaboration. That's
Yeah, Frank I've known since I don't know 90 something, since the 1900s. Um, and he called me up one day after we got back from Europe on the when our European tour got canceled because of COVID at the beginning of 2020. I came home and somehow we got to talking, and he was like, "Well, do you have anything?" And I had just written this song at the hotel room that we were trapped in Amsterdam called "Shit's Fucked," about the situation that was going on, and I sent him the little iPhone demo of it, and he sent me back a full on, realized, fleshed out recording of it. And he's
Wow.
like, "How about this?" And I was like, "Wow, that's great. Let's do it." And so that led us to doing the record together.
Yeah, you guys are a great team. Is this going to be like something you guys are going to keep doing down the road, maybe?
Yeah, we've already talked about doing another. He's very, very prolific and has way too many songs, then it doesn't make him all good. But he does, he has some really good stuff, and he's got like, he's ready to go. He's ready to record the next record. And I am not. I'm like, I've got to write some Super Sucker songs first. In fact, the song that was the single from the Frank record was a song called "I Think It Sucks and I Don't Like It," which I had actually written for the Supersuckers, thinking it'd be like a Supersuckers country song, and he just I accidentally leaked it into his atmosphere, and he sucks it up like a tornado and spits it out.
Another a super sucker, if you will, right?
Yes, indeed.
So this next album, are you thinking it's going to be probably more rock and roll, or or you just at this point you can mix everything in. You can do a country song. You can kind of mix in your albums now at this point, right?
Yeah, right now I'm kind of leaning towards making a real kind of a hardcore outlaw country-ish sort of record. Those are the kind of songs I've been toying with lately, and I think that we're going to try to make some real kind of borderline country music, but in that sort of vein, but just with real tough lyrics and real honest old man crotchety shit.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah,
My truck
exactly.
broke down, right? That's great.
My barbecue needs propane.
The struggle is real. It needs to be purged.
Right?
That's the worst part.
Yeah,
It feels
right.
heavy, but it's not working. It's got to be purged. Um,
Yeah.
what are you using for gear now? That's one because I always love to let your sound because you have a really good earthy, gritty sound when you play. What are you using for your bass and your amps and stuff, your heads?
Uh, I have a Gibson, a '92 Gibson Les Paul that I love. It's the greatest bass ever. I was thinking about quitting playing the bass when I got that bass. I was like, oh my God, okay, I can play the bass now if I can play this one. So I use that all the time, and I have like the head I have. It's basically some sort of boutique amp. It's modeled after an orange,
Okay.
and so I use that. And I don't mess around with too many effects. I've got a couple of little boost pedals, and
But you
but
do have a sound though. You do have a sound, and I can tell it when I'm listening. Like you have your own bass sound. Like it's you. That's why I was kind of curious of.
yeah, it's kind of like a fatter, uh, less overdriven version of what Lemmy might have.
Yeah, I can see that, and I think it's important when you have a band, and it depends on like how big the band is. You need to have some bands. You need to hear the bass, and yours is one of them. Especially like a trio, you know.
Right,
There's certain
right,
bands that's really important. I was actually talking to Doug and King's X the other day. He's another one whose bass you've got to hear it as prominent. I think of the same thing with your music. The bass is it's like there's four instruments and then a singer's voice. You know what I mean? So they all
right.
have to find their own spot in the frequency to be a Super Sucker song.
Yeah, for me, I think it's always been important that the bass be mixed a little hot in the melange.
Well, yeah, if it gets too muddy, you lose it. You almost it kills an album, and
Yeah,
if you just
yeah. I
can't
feel
do
like
it.
our records sound our like our last four records or so really sound good. Like I feel like we're making better records than we've ever made, and I feel like the songs are as good as they've ever been. I feel like this band is still viable. It's still got a lot of gas left in the tank.
No, I agree, and it's funny because if I listen to like a newer album and then go back and listen to the old one has a charm because it's the old one, it's early music or whatever. But
Right.
you can hear a huge difference though to me in the production.
Yeah,
It's like
for
night and
sure.
day. So they're like this. It's like a brother and sister. It's like you like them both, but they're just different at this point.
I agree 100%. Yeah, there's a nostalgia involved with the older stuff, but the new stuff really sounds good. The same with the Dwarves. They're doing the
Hmm.
same sort of thing. They're making really great sounding records now, and Their old records are charming and cool and have great songs, but the new records really sound great.
Do you have a hard time with fans in the changeover because like you know, everyone has the bands like it's a one hit wonder, it's this or that. That band's getting old. I can't believe they still do music. They don't sound like the old one. Because everybody hears a band at a certain time in their life, usually when we're young and we don't have responsibilities or and everyone thinks of it as being the best time in their lives. In hindsight. At
Right,
the time they don't think of it like that, right? And then that's when they love
exactly.
a band. But when they get past that time point, a lot of people listen to less music. Do you find that people still kind of hold you to the nostalgia thing and they're like, I want the old Super Suckers? I mean, I don't think there's a huge difference like in you guys have just grown is what you were, but you know how people are.
Yeah, people are fucked. And if you were to, if you were to listen to
Excuse me.
every shitty comment online, you would never get out of bed. But I don't. When you meet people face to face, nobody wants to say shitty things to you. Everybody's nice at the shows, and for a while when we first replaced Ron Heathman with Marty got a lot of grief from the fans about not being Ron.
That's
So
not cool.
that's not cool, and they're just not understanding the situation. But it happens, but that hasn't been a part of our story for years, so it's nice.
I know, but people, I'm like, you guys are adults. How could you even like think like that? It just frustrates me. Like, and like with this show, I only have people on that I like. So yeah, you're only gonna hear me say positive things because why would I dwell in negativity? Why would I have somebody out that I don't enjoy that I don't want? You know what I mean? That could be
Right.
somewhere else. That could be a website can be slagging them off and stuff. That's not me. If I enjoyed the music and the
Yeah.
artist, we're gonna talk about the good stuff. That's what it's about.
The internet has given a place for these people to expound their asshole theories or whatever it is. There's a couple guys on our Facebook page that just are constantly negative, and you just don't engage with them.
Well, and that's one of the things I started this. Besides with COVID and the band's not touring, I'm like, all right, people got to go out and see the bands or go to the websites or whatever. But there's always so much negativity, and it always bothered me, you know. And I'm like, there's like probably 90 people out of 100 that aren't commenting that are positive and want to hear the band, and you got these 10 noisy people that are always just on, making it seem like there's a million people harassing the bands. I'm like, I'm gonna have a show where we talk about whatever we want and just talk about positive stuff and don't make gossip up, you know. Like, what would
Right,
you do as a kid? Like, who would you talk to? Oh, this album's like when you look at a vinyl album, like, oh, look at the pictures, look at the, you know, they're on tour in this one. What's going on? Let's talk about the music. You know, let's be positive. You know,
right,
say the rest of it for like a TMZ or I don't like dig into like the past band stuff because who cares? And bands
right.
change and members change, just like at your job. You don't have the same people generally working at your same job for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I
People,
understand. You get precious about a band, and you get attached to the way it is, and it changes, and it's hard. Change is hard. People don't like change, but it always happens.
I guess, see, I'm a fan of like Yes and also like Deep Purple. And just like, there's Mach 1, Mach 2. There's just different versions of White Snake. There's just different parts of the band you like. Which version of the band do you like? But you can't say because it's a different person. You can't, you know what I mean? Slag off
Right.
a person. That's stupid for grown-ups to
It's
do.
not fair.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's not very cool at all. Um, so one of the things I wanted to ask you three impromptu questions of off the top of my head. What's your favorite life changing album besides My Sharona, like a full album? Like what is the album you're like this changed my life?
Oh boy, probably. I guess it would be Highway to Hell. Um, I got turned on to that album late. Like I think Back in Black had already come out, and I
Hmm.
didn't even know that AC/DC had a singer before Brian Johnson. In fact, when I first heard "You Shook Me All Night Long" on the radio as a kid, I thought it was the new Rod Stewart song
What?
because it was like that was the closest voice to that I had heard before. So we called up the radio station and we're like, "What was that new Rod Stewart song?" And they're like, well, "That wasn't it, Rod. That was AC/DC." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So we go get that record and then we dive into their past, and I get turned on the Highway to Hell,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Oh my god, these guys
Yeah.
were a whole different sort of thing before they switched singers." And yeah, it really kind of, and just the fact that diving into that led me to dive into the AC/DC catalog, which led me to the Ramones, which led me to Motorhead, which I always hold those three bands as my kind of holy
I was gonna
trilogy
say Trinity. Yeah.
of rock rock greatness.
All right. What would you say the one? I always like to, as an artist, your one favorite book. What would be your go-to book that you maybe recommend, or your favorite book? Only because your
Oh,
lyrics are so interesting. I'm just curious, like, what would be your go-to book?
yeah, I don't know. That's hard. I read a lot as a kid, and I don't read nearly as much as I used to, but I still like to. I don't know, maybe Naked by David Sedaris. I
Okay,
like the way he just has stories, and there's not like a big long narrative that you have to get involved with. It's just that little
right.
bursts. I like that.
Well, yeah, no, never right or wrong because being a fan of yours and listening to your lyrics since you know so many years at this point, since the late '80s, early '90s, it's always interesting. Like what are you reading? Because it doesn't always match up to what you think it would be. And that's one of the best
Right,
things about the show and talking to people. It's like, well, I don't think anymore. I wouldn't even assume to know what you did. I couldn't guess. When I started this, a younger man would have been like, back in the day, I'm like, I'll bet you he listens to this and this because this is cool and this is whatever. But now you're like, I have no idea what people listen to or read because
right,
it never matches up. Someone's like, oh, it's the Bee
right.
Gees, it's this or that. You're like, oh, okay, I thought it'd be Slayer for you, but it's not, and that's pretty awesome to hear that. Um, it's the final thing is in the world that we have today of like shows and binging. What is your binge show? What would you say the best binging show for you has been?
Oh, The Wire.
Has it? I have not watched that one yet. I've heard it's good.
The Wire is probably the greatest show that's ever been on television, in my opinion. And Breaking Bad was really great as well. But The Wire is for me the king of all serial TV
Oh,
shows.
I'll have to put that on my list. See, that's actually the thing for me because as I go through and hard finding the good ones. I'm watching
Right.
the James Spader one right now. I'm doing down that one. He's a con man or criminal and he works for the FBI or something. It's kind of cheesy but kind of fun.
Oh,
It feels like it's like MacGyver-ish from the '80s, but like in a fun way.
right,
You
right.
know, it's character driven, so it's kind of goofy, but cool. That was great. So I just want to thank you. I just want to introduce you to people that aren't aware of you. If you kind of flew under the radar, I think promotion of bands at this point has really just gone out the window. I think the last big
Yeah,
hurrah for bands to be like all over the radios and stuff was the alternative days, and you luckily got picked in there because you weren't anything. And alternative picked up, you know anybody that was different. Luckily, you get
right.
you guys and you get Chili Peppers, and it just makes like every band together didn't match, which is kind of Jane's Addiction. Everyone just went together. But nowadays,
Right.
those bands don't even get the same kind of announcements anymore. You
Uh,
know,
I feel bad for a new band trying to start now. There's just so many bands, and it's so easy to get your music out there, and which is it's a blessing and a curse, I guess. Because if I was a kid now starting out, I would skip the whole studio or the record label process,
oh yeah,
record in my room, and put the shit out on Spotify myself. You know?
which a lot of people do. Unfortunately, it doesn't translate. The numbers don't translate to the clubs. You,
No, they definitely don't.
you have these
We're
huge
lucky to
Instagram
have
numbers, but you don't have those numbers. You play club, you're not going to get that showing.
Right. We're lucky that we have kind of grandfathered in a crowd now, so we're very fortunate to have established ourselves as a thing by now.
I agree. I think and it's bands like you and like Clutch and Reverend Horton Heat that come around. Everybody knows they're coming around this year. Get your
Right.
tickets. It's always so you already have a built-in audience that appreciates you. You guys say the same. Who you are. And the fans just keep coming, and hopefully they bring in new fans or their kids or likewise, to you. Um,
Right.
but I wanted to introduce you, take a little time today, and I want to tell people check out your website. I'll put the links up. Look for the new album. That people don't know you, check out your old albums, your oldish albums, because you just had one out a year ago, 2 years ago. Past couple years, you got a
Yeah.
couple out, so
Yeah.
as mentioned,
I've put out something pretty much every year, so I try to anyway.
that's awesome. And I want to thank you for being on the show, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Sean. I'm glad we could
So,
finally get this thing
I know, right?
done.
Awesome. Okay.